Hey guys, how is it going? I hope you guys are doing good, and thank you so much for joining me on this really quick episode of the Film Life vlog. Hey, so one of you guys out there from my last episode, and in which I discussed my decision to let go of my point and shoot film camera collection. One of you asked me, what are the 5 cameras that I am keeping, the ones that I decided I'm not selling. And I thought about it and I was like, instead of just answering that question, I would just do a quick video and talk about it and maybe give some of the reasons why I'm keeping those particular cameras. To be honest, I counted round. The cameras that I'm actually keeping are 6 in number, and I'll talk about them. I'll show you those cameras and I'll talk about why I'm keeping them. I actually had 46 point and shoot cameras. I counted all of them, and that's just way too many point and shoot cameras that I would ever need. So in deciding on which ones to keep, I had to think about certain factors. I've not tried all of them. I've barely tried any of them. Actually, I've maybe tried like 3 out of the 46 cameras. And I wanted to, I knew there was one camera that I had to keep. And that camera, I'm keeping that for sentimental value, and also because it just takes really great images. And that camera is actually this one right here. And that's my Yashica EasyView point and shoot film camera. And the reason why this holds such a special place in my life is really because this was my first camera that I ever purchased. This was back in Ghana. This was circa 1996. I had just gained admission into university in Ghana, and I knew I had the interest. I had that growing interest. I wanted, you know what, actually it's way before that. It's actually, this was even before I went to university. I purchased this, I think 1994, because in Ghana we were required after high school to do national service for 1 year. And so before we go to university, we would do national service and we would be posted in all different places all over the country. I happened to be posted in the eastern region of Ghana, in a town called Mampong Ikuapem. It's actually on the hills, on the mountains, the mountainous part of Ghana. It's really a place where I found myself. I was transitioning into adulthood, and I really found myself. Most of who I am right now is because of that period, because I was by myself. I had a lot of solitude, soul searching, and just discovering who I was. And we earned maybe just a tiny bit of income. It was really an allowance to keep us going. But during that period, what I did was I saved my money, some of my money, and I used it to purchase this camera back in Ghana. Come to think of it, that was quite a bold move, because we weren't being paid a lot, but yet I had that interest. I had that interest to the point that I invested quite a significant proportion of my income at that point to purchase this camera. It didn't make sense to a lot of people back then, but you know what? This was one of the best decisions that I made. And the reason is that I have lots of memories because of that. Instead of most likely going through a big period of my life without having any tangible memories to remember that period by, I actually have pictures that I can look back on and remember how things were, you know. And the fact is that the majority of my childhood, I don't have any pictures. And because, you know, back in Africa when we were growing up, our parents did not have, it wasn't a priority because they really had to make ends meet. And it wasn't a big priority taking pictures, right? So maybe once every few years we would take like one picture, a picture here, a picture there. That's really all I have for my childhood. However, during this period, when I was discovering myself, I got this camera, and I have a ton of memories, a ton of pictures to show for it. So in university, when I finally got into university, I was just snapping away, taking all these memories, and I'm going to showcase some of the pictures that I took back then. It's just a few pictures. I'll just showcase them right here. Hey, so welcome back. And now that I am in Canada and I am an adult, I have a family, every time I take this camera out, it just means so much to me. And the wonderful thing is being able to share that experience with my children as well. I have had the opportunity to give this camera to my kids, and they actually have used this camera, the same camera, to take some photos that I was so proud of, and I'm gonna showcase them right here. That said, I have also had the opportunity to take this camera out, to take photos of my family, various settings, and every time I use this camera, I just have such a strong attachment. So regardless of what happens, I am not letting go of this camera. So this camera, really keeping this camera is really a no-brainer. The other cameras were a bit more tricky. I had to decide on what was gonna make me keep this camera versus that camera. And my decision was really based on the brands. I did a bit of research. I've not shot with the majority of these other cameras, but I did a bit of research and I wanted to have a camera each from all the brands that I have. And so I have this camera here for Canon, right? I had a bunch of Canon point and shoot cameras, but I'm saving this one here. I looked up some pictures. It looks great. The features on this camera is great as well, so I'm keeping that. And then there is this one here, meant for Minolta. And the only reason why, not the only reason, but what I love, I've actually shot with this camera before. And what I actually love about this camera is the finder. You see that finder over there? That is that is the biggest finder I have seen on a point and shoot camera. Actually, the name implies it. It says big finder. And when you look through this camera here, I mean, gosh, the finder is just a beautiful finder. I can't let go of this camera, mostly for that reason. And also, the other thing is, it's an all glass lens. And Minolta is a very reputable brand. I have a ton of their SLRs. So, I mean, this one was actually quite easy for me. So I actually took that, and I'm not selling that. This is actually one of the maybe one of two Nikon cameras that I have. I really like Nikon. Nikon makes really good lenses, and I looked up sample photos of this camera, and I liked them as well, so I decided to keep this one. I have not yet shot with this one, so I decided to keep it, and I'm just hopeful that it will give me good images. And another reason why I like this particular one is because it's slim and it's smaller. I mean, compare this camera to that. You see the size difference? This is much smaller, it's sleeker, so this can fit into my pocket and my hand a bit more easily, right? So I'm keeping this one, and this one would represent my Nikons. Then I actually saving, you know, every photographer tends to drift towards one particular brand. For some it's Sony, for some it's Nikon, for some it's Canon. Ever since I started shooting, and more so recently, I would say that the brand that I really feel attracted to, there may be two brands. One of them is Minolta. The other brand that I really feel understands me in terms of the way the cameras work for me is the Ricoh brand. That's one brand that I find that I am really getting drawn to. I like their design aesthetics of Ricoh. So I have two, actually, I'm not just keeping one, but two cameras from Ricoh. So we have the Ricoh RW1, which actually is reputable for taking good photos, and this one as well, which is the Ricoh FF9 camera. I'm actually keeping both of these because I really liking Ricoh. I like the design aesthetics of this particular camera. It's almost as small or as sleek as this one here, the Nikon that I talked about. But I just really like it. I don't know, there's something about this camera that I dig. I just dig the design. There's something about it. It's just kind of beautiful, kind of cute. A little complex, but it's just lovely. And also the other thing is that it has that retro date feature, so it will put a date on your photos, which I kind of admire. I like retro things. That really appeals to me a lot. So I'm actually keeping this camera as well. I'm going to put some links in the description of this video that would link to Flickr, some sample images on Flickr for pretty much all these cameras. So for those of you that may be interested in taking a look at this listing for my point and shoot camera collection, it's actually I'm going to leave a link in the description of this video. Do click on it and take a look at it. And another thing that I want to say also is I've been thinking about it. What's gonna happen if my listing, if nobody purchases these cameras? And I was like, you know, I probably wouldn't relist them. I would just keep them, because at the end of the day, I mean, I still collect, and at the end of the day, I have a vlog that I want to experiment all kinds of cameras with, and I want to share that experience with everyone, you know. So the whole point of me setting up this vlog was I am going to experiment with all the cameras in my collection, put this data out there, and any of you guys, if you're interested in this camera, you know that there's a video that will explain and will even show you sample photos of those cameras. So if by the end of this period, I mean, I'm not changing my mind. However, if this listing does not sell, I'm not going to go through any additional trouble to get rid of these cameras. I would just keep them, and I would just continue to make videos and continue to enjoy all of them, you know. I'll just continue to enjoy all of them, and every time I do, I will make a video about it, and I will share it with you guys. So it's really a win-win, right? I'm not desperate for the money per se. It's not about the money at all. So I just don't want to be bothered. I don't want to go through that trouble of going through each of these cameras and listing them. And I honestly don't have the time for that. I'm a busy person. I work, and I also try and put out videos. And I find that these cameras will be useful in the future as well. So for now, the listing is up. By the end of 6, I think it has 6 more days left. If it doesn't sell, I'll just not renew it, and that's about it. So anyways, thanks guys for joining me on this episode. I hope that you guys have a wonderful day, and as always, stay safe.